GOAT debate in basketball is probably the biggest debate and conversation we have about who's the GOAT, man. Is it Jordan? Is it Kobe? Is it LeBron? Maybe it's Kareem. Magic and Bird got to be in the conversation too. And then plus the conversation we had last episode about is this decade, does the 2000s have the best centers? Or maybe the 2010s got the best point guards? Or maybe the 80s had the best small forwards? Combining all these things, what we get to today, when we talk about which era has this big three. So we're talking about the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 10s, and the 20s. Who's the big three of each era? So starting off with the 80s, Nelson, who is your big three in the 1980s in the NBA?
Big three from the '80s, man. I think it's pretty obvious. You got to go Magic and Bird in there first. Like they are the '80s. You know, Celtics and Lakers finals every year, dang near in the '80s. So they got to be in there for sure. Magic and Bird.
Mm-hmm.
My three, I would honestly probably say Kareem. I mean, ain't no problem. It's Kareem. Because Magic and Bird, I know some people might say Kareem's prime was in the 70s or whatever, but the dominance in the 80s was still there, obviously. And, you know, obviously him and Magic won several championships in the 80s. I know certain people going to wonder about, man, where's Mike? Mike was in the 80s. If we talking 80s, Mike win the guy. Now, was he great? Yes, obviously. Magic, Bird, all them guys, they all said, you know, Jesus in basketball shoes, all that good stuff. I get it. But what was Mike winning in the 80s? You know what I mean? I don't think we was looking at Mike like we look at him now. So Mike would be like my honorable mention just in that fourth spot probably. And right in there would probably like Moses Malone or Dr. J, one of them guys. They would all be in that little honorable mention tier for the 80s. But the big three, we got to talk big three. I got to go Magic, Bird, and Kareem. They accomplished the most in that time frame. They was easily head and shoulders above the competition in that time frame. So that's definitely my top three.
Interesting. I'm not gonna say I'm full. Like I knew Magic. Like I think we all can agree Magic. A little surprise on Bird, just a little bit. My tussle on the third spot between Kareem and Isaiah.
Well, Thomas, understandable.
Yeah, I think because you look at how the same way we put respect on other people. I ain't gonna jump too far here, but we put the same way we put respect on other people for who they beat, and saying this player or this team dominated this span, but somehow this other player interrupted this run, and their name should not be in this conversation, but they are. Isaiah Thomas is that guy for me. So we talk about who beat the GOATs. If we talk about who beat the other big two, you got to mention the third player that was disrupting everything they had going on here. So for it to be Magic Bird, Isaiah said, "Wow, both of y'all gave me two piece. Put my name in the conversation too. I got to put respect on that." So it's really between him and Kareem for me for like that third spot. And I think the only reason I would probably give the nod to Isaiah is because Kareem played half of the 80s. Like he wasn't Kareem fully throughout the whole 80s. If he was full like Kareem the whole time, then I'll probably look to him. But since Isaiah Thomas was a little more prominent, a little more dominant, and you look at his career, Isaiah Thomas in the 80s versus any other time was like the prime time for him. I'll probably get that nod to Isaiah. So my big three would probably be Magic, Bird, and Isaiah versus Kareem.
I ain't mad at that, honestly, because that is Isaiah Thomas's prime for sure, his prime. And obviously, like that's when he like you said he put it on Magic and Bird, but Mike too. Mike was in there.
Oh yeah,
he was part of that. Yeah. And my old coach would say that the NCAA trophy I got in there, he was part of that. Oh, so I definitely understand why you throw Isaiah in there, man. Isaiah, you know, dude deserves his respect. Maybe I should throw him in that honorable mention category. But I was thinking so much about, man, I know they ain't win no rings, but we talking about an individual player. I like from the 80s. It was hard for me not to put Kareem in there. And then I wanted to also show respect to Dr. J and Moses Malone because it's like, I feel like them only winning one ring, what they did, you know, took away, like people forget how good they were as individuals. So I feel like they deserve to be in there as well because I feel like he had the respect of the whole league. Obviously, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So I ain't mad at that though. Obviously, like Isaiah Thomas definitely deserves to be in there, and I ain't gonna jump on you about it. It's still a solid pick, so I ain't mad.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not saying I'm not standing firm on it, but it's not something to where I'm like, it's a clear 3, and then he's clear the 4. It's really 3 and 3.5. Like I could easily throw Kareem instead of Isaiah. Like it's really a wishy washy thing for me. So, but definitely respect to Moses and Dr. J too, because I was close to putting Moses in there, but then I was like, oh, Kareem did kind of still have run in the 80s, and Isaiah Thomas was that guy too.
Get
So
tough.
it gets tough, man. So that's probably like the top 5 for me. I think I'll have Moses in that 5th spot, Kareem in that 4th spot, Isaiah 3, and then Magic and Bird fight out for 1, 2. So I think for me, my big 3 from that 8 is going to be Magic and Bird. Obviously, they carried the league and did what they supposed to do with that. And I think Isaiah, I think I'm a little more biased towards Isaiah because he doesn't get as much respect overall from league history as he should. So I'm prone to push him a little bit more because of that. But if we're talking player for player, what they can do and did, like historically and stats and just film watching, it makes a bigger argument for Kareem. It's not like it's just a wash either way. So it's really a tussle, but I think I'm leaning towards Zeke of that 3rd spot for me.
Okay, I understand that. I ain't mad at that.
So
I'm glad we can agree on Magic and Bird. Though, if you want to have Magic and Bird, in though, we was glad to sit here for a minute. Like, all right, now let's get into this. Let's talk about it.
nah, there's no way, man. When you're talking about in a 10-year span, 2 players have what, 8 of them? I, I can't do that, bro. Like,
Clearly, they was running the decade.
yeah, so I'll be a fool to sit here and say, no, man, get Magic out of there and throw somebody. No, no, no. 8 of the rings during a 10-year span ran through 2 people. I'm not leaving them off that list. Like that's a whole other conversation, but it only need to be had. You know, we got common sense, so thank God for that. If you weren't for that, bro, I don't think we'd be doing this podcast together. So, you know, ain't a conversation to be had. So let's move on to the 90s, man. 1990s. Who's the big 3 dominating the NBA that time?
Another obvious pick, like we gotta go the man, the myth, the legend, Michael Jordan. 6
Yep.
championships, 6 finals MVPs, 5 MVPs. Can't let it go. Like would be remiss not to throw him in there. So Mike in there, number 1, obviously. After Mike, some people might be kind of surprised, but you shouldn't be though. But Hakeem is in there right after Mike, if you ask me. So Mike, Hakeem, and then number 3. I ain't gonna lie to you, man. I kind of hate to do it, but I gotta go Karl Malone. Karl Malone stole the MVP from Mike. You know what I mean? During his prime, went to the finals back-to-back years, couldn't beat him. I get it. Was clearly the best team on those Utah Jazz teams. Second all time in points for a long time. Now 3rd. His prime was definitely in the 90s. So I lean towards Karl Malone for that third spot. With the honorable mention nod to Scottie Pippen, John Stockton, they was number 2s though. So I can't throw them in there over the guy that was number 1. And then I also throw the honorable mention in there for David Robinson. I feel like he was very big, very good player. Was kind of overshadowed by Hakeem and then Shaq at the time. But 70 points in a game for a big man, you don't see that too often. I just want to throw that in there. But yeah, for my big 3 for the Niners, got to go Mike, Keem, and Karl Malone.
Well, this is an obvious 1, 2 again. You know, Jordan and Dream. That's obvious. And
Jordan and Dream.
Dwell on that. I would throw an honorable mention of Charles Barkley in there. I think
Honorable
he
mention
deserves
Charles
to have.
Barkley.
I couldn't put him 3rd, but he's definitely honorable mention. I'll entertain the conversation. So for me, I was really wrestling between Carl and Scotty. And I think it's really about, yes, Pitt was number 2, But if we're looking at the player and not just the output alone, we look at Pippen in a different light. So we don't look at him as just, oh, he was number 2. Like, he couldn't put up 30 points a game. Like, that's not happening with Jordan there.
Right.
So it's like, okay, if Jordan's not there, of course we're not getting the rings. Like, let's throw the rings out the conversation. Like, but if we're talking about what a player can do as far as their stats and their talent and skill level, and you compare that to Carl, I think that's a conversation to be had. Because people were saying Pip probably the top 5 player in the game during the 90s. Like, it's a conversation to be had. Like, people were saying
For sure.
that. And so that's where I'm like, okay, if he's top 5 with Jordan, how much higher does it get without Jordan? I started going down a rabbit hole, and I'm like, maybe we need to put more respect on Pip's name. And I will. So I'll put him third on my list of who's third.
Boy, convinced himself.
I think, like, for real, I'm like, okay, maybe Pip was kind of handcuffed about who's the guy of, like, I could really run this thing if I wanted to. I'm Robin was a great superhero. You put him next to Batman, there's a reason why Batman talked about more. Like, Robin with Teen Titans and Nightwing and X and all that stuff, fire. But you put him next to Batman, all those guys taking the back seat. But everybody taking the back seat to Jordan, so it's not a knock to him at all. Like, it's here and here for everybody in the 90s.
Right.
So it's not to knock him, but it's like, bro, I'm playing against the guy. It ain't just a guy. Like we talked about before we were recording. Like, it's superstars and it's all-stars. Everybody like an all-star in the 90s compared to him. So it's not a knock to Pippen at all. But I think if you get him off the handcuffs and let him drive the car a little bit more, you see a lot more output from him. Not to say you're going to have close to what Karl Malone had as output. He's not touching the second all-time scoring, the time he retired and everything. But I think you see higher highs from Pip, and you see more consistently higher highs from him if he gets off the handcuffs of being behind Jordan like that. So I'm thinking about it, man. I got to throw Pip number 3. So I know some people going to look at me crazy and say, well, you got Carl there. Well, listen, brother, it's my list. Okay?
You listen here, sucker.
Your job, turkey.
No, I ain't mad at that though, because like you said, man, you never know. I tend to lean more towards who's the number 1 option. Like, I got to go with that guy more times than not. So I get Scotty. Like, we never know what Scotty could have been if he would have had the chance to be his own guy. I get that. But also, a lot of people depict Scotty like, yeah, he came into the league a baby deer and, he developed into, what he became next to Mike. So we kind of credit Mike a little bit to his development. But like I said, you just never know what that guy could have been. So we gonna have them same conversations about a lot of guys. Might say that about Jaylen Brown one day in the future. Excuse me.
Listen.
Thank you. You might say that about Jaylen Brown one day in the future. We could say that about John Stockton. Like, how many points could John Stockton have been scoring if he wasn't feeding Karl Malone and stuff like that? So I lean towards the number 1 guy more because it's like that's the guy that the whole defense is planning for. We planning for both of y'all, but we all focused on Mike, and then we make sure that somebody focused on you. You know what I mean? Hey, you guard Scotty, we gonna guard Mike. You know what I mean? Like the bad boys, you say we gotta knock Mike down before he get in the air. They weren't saying that about Scotty. Nah, obviously Scotty was Scotty. He did his thing too. But I'm sure they fouled Scotty too, just because that's how they played. But they weren't talking about him like, hey, before Scotty get in the air, we gotta knock him out. But Mike, we gonna put Mike on his butt. So
yeah.
So yeah, I ain't mad at that though, man. He's still one of the best players of the decade for sure. I just gotta slide him into my honorable mention just for that though.
Yeah, I think the thing that easily puts Pip above Stockton for me is because back in that time, point guards weren't getting a lot of shots up like that. So even if Stockton would have been more prominent, like if say Malone was number 2 and Stockton was number 1, he still would have been handicapped because of the time he was in. Now, if you advance him 20 years later, you're looking at him looking like Steve Nash now. You're probably looking at him getting more 20-point games and touching 25, touching 30. But he still ain't. I don't know if he's gonna be doing that in the 90s in the system of feed the big man. So
Yeah.
I think you can say the same thing about Carl too. Of like, if you take John Stockton out and you put another guard in there, this Malone look is great. That's a conversation to be had. Because you getting think about how much easier, you were big. Think about how much easier it is for you to score when you got a PG looking for you and can get it to you where you want it, how you want it.
So much
Your
easier.
jumper, so much easier. Like the effort you put in with a terrible PG versus the perfect fit PG is two different words. Like oh man, all I gotta do is catch and lay up for half my points. Yes, easy. Versus catch, go through double teams, or I'm off the pick and roll, and you throw me this terrible ball out below my knees, and I got to bend over and reach it to go back up to, or you throwing me the pass. It's too high. I see I'm working a nerve right now. I know.
Boy, you have no idea, dog. That's some of the most frustrating stuff in the world as a big. That's the equivalent of a great wide receiver having a bad quarterback. Like, dang, bro, you can't just give me the ball. Let me tell you the one of the biggest pet peeves a big man can have: a guard that don't know how to throw a post entry. Because I ain't trying to go off on a tangent, but like you said, you worked the nerve when you said that. And if I post up, right, two things. Number one, if I post up, I gotta put this out there for the people. Like, hopefully, I help somebody. If I post up, two things. Number one, try to throw it to my hand if you can. That's all you gotta do. Throw it to this hand. If I'm posting up, I got this arm back. Throw it right here. I'm gonna just catch it just like that. Simple, right? If I got my hand down here, if I'm posting up, I got my hand down. Bounce it to me. Throw it to my hand. Boy, let me tell you what guards will do. I have my hand up like this. They'll throw that junk to the sky.
Yep.
And everybody on the court be like, oh, well, he threw it to the big man. let's go get it. Now I'm jumping as high as I can to come down with the ball. I ain't even in position no more. I'm like, God, dog, boy, you can't get this shit going right here. I know you, and I know before guards get in here, bro, with defense be guarding us, this and that. I understand that. You can't make a pass the defense? Like, dog, dribble and throw it. Do something. Fake a pass and make a pass. I know y'all heard that before. I'm sorry. But yeah, we play dependent positions. So you got a very serious point. Like, if John Stockton was the point guard, would it be as good? We'll never know. But do I think another NBA guard could have fed the post? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but
so
I ain't mad at it either way.
Yeah, it's a conversation to be had about how much Stockton helped Malone and how much Malone helped Stockton out. Like, it's a 1-2 punch. That's the Kareem Magic conversation we have. That's the Mike and Pippen conversation we have all the time. So if we're ranking them off of output of what we seeing, though, obviously it's Mike, Carl, Pip, and Stockton. But I think there's a conversation to be had about because you got to think too, because Pip and Jordan both played wings. Let's say one of them were big. Let's say if Pip was a PG and Jordan was the wing, or if Pip was a big and Jordan still played wing. Now you're looking at possibly like a Kobe and Shaq combo. You're looking at the Clyde Drexler Dream combo. You know what I mean? It changed the dynamics of things. So because they're both playing the wing, Pip played the point forward, which kind of changed his role around the team some, and that amplified what Mike could do. So if I'm playing point forward, but Mike isn't there, maybe I'm putting up 20 and 10. Maybe I'm looking like LeBron type stats. Maybe I'm having Bird type stats. I'm putting up 20, 30-point games with 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Maybe Pip's averages jump up some more to averaging 23. I don't know what's averaging now, but let's say he averaged 23, 6 and 7, or 8 and 6. Like, his numbers change now because Jordan's not there. So that's a conversation to be had, man. So I think personally for me, I'll take Pip over that role because here's the biggest hate you can have for him. When Jordan was gone, the Bulls, conference championship. I think they made it to that year. If he wasn't in
Future
his
conference
feelings, they
finals.
probably could have made a bigger run if he wasn't in his feelings about Tony Kukoc and stuff. So it maybe get a ring, man. You never know. So that's why I'm like, oh, we've seen glimpses of Pippen being the guy. He just didn't know how to handle. He didn't have the mental and emotional capacity to be the guy like that. So he didn't get trained to be that guy like that. So imagine if Jordan never came back and you still had to run it back with that team. It's a good chance to get a ring still. So for me, I got to throw Pippen in the third spot. Carl slides the fourth for me. And then, Stockton gets the honorable mention. Barkley, David Robinson, all those guys. So Jordan, Dream, and Pip for me taking over the top three in the in the 90s. So
Yes, sir.
mm.
Solid though. Both lists solid. I ain't mad.
All right. So now it might get a little interesting here. 2000s. I think this is the most interesting one because we have way more contenders in this conversation.
Okay. I'm ready for this one.
I think so. You want me to go first, or you gonna go?
You go first. I ain't gonna lie. We might disagree on one. Like I'm kind of excited to hear this one, but it's gonna be good either way.
I didn't want to go first on this. I don't know why I asked. I could have went first on any other ones, but this is the only one I couldn't go first on. All right, so I'll just put it like this. Here are my contenders on the table. I just put it out there like that.
Okay.
Maybe by the end of this, you can convince me one way or another. Of course, we got Kobe and Shaq, a 1-2 punch that dominated the only three-peat we've seen in our lifetime. So gotta have them two. Gotta have the man who held it down in San Antonio, Mr. Fundamental Tim Duncan. I gotta have KG on the list because he's arguably the best power forward of all time, fighting Timmy for that spot. And my fifth guy in this conversation is AI. Gotta put respect on the crossover, Allen Iverson. So those are my 5 people in contention. So I have to have 2 of the guys in my honorable mention. Before we do that, do you have anybody else that's not on my list?
Someone don't want to cut the list down.
Not at all, boy.
Everybody can't make it, dog. Everybody cannot make it. Man.
Oh, man.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I would throw Dwayne Wade in my honorable mention. I'm kind of shocked you didn't say that. I would throw Dwayne Wade in my honorable mention. And
well, I was looking at who can concretely be in my top 3.
Okay,
I have honorable mention like this. Yeah, those are my people. I'm seriously saying they could be 1, 2, and 3. Now you want to throw honorable mention in there, and D Wade being that talk, and
okay, I
get
you.
Yeah, those are my 3. My 5. I'm saying like these are the 3 people I can find between these 5 for the top 3. That's what I was thinking.
So you ain't say Bron? You don't think Bron got a chance at the top 3?
Because drafted in 03. We talked about this last episode, but drafted in 03. Had a finals run in 07. It's a conversation to be had, but I'm looking at Kobe, Shaq, Tim, AI, KG. I don't know if I can put him over any of them guys because his first ring ain't come until 11.
Yeah, facts. He didn't win a ring in 2000.
So that's where LeBron would be the first honorable mention, like after these 5 probably. All right, so I'll put it to you like this. AI is going to be last place of these 5. That's the easy pick I have. Now I'm really fighting between who's my final cut of these 4. Like who's the one I'm putting on the chopping block. Shaq ran the first half of this, and Kobe ran the last half of this decade. Tim Duncan was dominant throughout, and KG's the one without the rings. So that's the push I'm going through for everybody. I'm like,
it's tough like that when you put it that way.
Yeah, so like Shaq dominated from 2000 to like 05, 06. Kobe dominated from like 06 to 10. So Tim was dominant, let's say, he was dominant the whole 10 years, but to cut it down, I'll say when he won in 03 to 10, so a good 7-year run. And KG takes the backseat because he wasn't winning as much as the other guys. and then AI has to be fourth just because he definitely wasn't given as much between injuries and later half of the decade. He kind of died down some, so that's why he's automatically fifth. So those my top four, man. Let me see what you got for your list.
Man, I'm right there with you though. Shaq and Kobe, obviously, right there. Like you can't. It's hard to leave either one of them off. I think, in all honesty, and I mean, I feel like you'll agree. I think Kobe is. I ain't gonna lie. I think Kobe and Tim are solidified, but I think they the only two. Like for the
Mhm.
2000s, because like you said, Tim dominated throughout. Cole started off, young Cole, but early, 2000, they won their first championship. Or was it 99? 99, 2000, 2001? Or is it 2000, 2001, 2002?
Yeah, second.
So, okay. So young Kobe obviously wasn't super dominant the Kobe that we know and think about every day. But that by that third championship, Cole was averaging 25, something like that. So he was had arrived for the most part. You know what I mean? By 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was cold the rest of the way he was being. So I think Kobe solidified 5 rings, all five of them in the 2000s. Then you got Tim Duncan, also 5 rings. I think 4 of the 5 in the 2000s. Got an MVP, got a DPOY, all that good stuff. Was the best power forward in the world. Kevin Garnett obviously competed with him for that. But I think it's pretty much the consensus with the rings and awards that he got. But I think them the only two that's like they in there. I feel like they the face of the 2000s. That third spot, it get tricky because now it's like, dang, I got to leave somebody off. And
Yep.
9 times out of 10, it's somebody that I love. It's somebody that I love. I got to leave them off. So KG right there, Shaq right there, like I said. You got Bron. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't really throw AI in there. I don't think AI had a long enough prime. We just got a lot of love and respect for AI. But
Mm-hmm.
that leg spot between them three, man, for me. Bron, KG, or Shaq. And
All
if you're
right, so
asking me, okay, go ahead. No, you got it. Go ahead.
okay, I was gonna say, so I'm definitely with you on AI. I think, like I said, it's the impact he had, especially that's my childhood and everything. So AI's in that talk for me for that reason. But he's obviously like I can't put him third. And so like the fact that I said Tim was dominant the whole decade, I'd be remiss if I'd be beyond stupid if I just left him off there. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah,
So
facts.
I think the true conversation, like you said, like I forgot about Brian throwing him in the conversation, but he can be put in there. So let's make a case for each three, and maybe by the end of this, we can come or I can come to a conclusion because I feel like you got yours set. All right, so Shaq, he was the MVP. Probably could have been consensus or should have been unanimous. Hands down MVP. He dominated the first half of that decade. So like the first 5 years are probably that Shaq era run of like the prime Shaq as far as that decade goes. Died down a little bit in the back half. D-Wade took over that 06 Heat team, took him to the finals. Wade won finals MVP, so on and so forth. So I give Shaq from 2000s to 05. I'll say Brun probably 06 to 10 is probably that Brun era of when he fully became more of himself. If I had to cut it down, I'd really say like 07 because that's the first finals run he had. So from 7 to 10, I'll really give LeBron his years.
Yeah, valid.
Now we're looking at KG. He won an MVP during that time frame. I believe he was 04. Won a ring in 08. And people argue that he could be a better power forward than Tim Duncan. That's the case I got for everybody, man. So KG's probably like the second most consistent player right there behind Tim of being
Facts.
dominant through that whole decade. So that's the case for each three. So you got Shaq first half, Bron second half, Tim Duncan played the whole game. I mean, Tim Duncan, KG played the whole game. but he didn't have as high as highs, dominance-wise, as Shaq. And LeBron didn't have as much dominance-wise, even in his little run that he had. So that's where I left Bron off that list because he was kind of coming into his own, but he wasn't full of LeBron James yet. Like he wasn't the best player in the league at that time. He wasn't looked at as LeBron James yet. So that's why I leave him off the list for me personally. So it's really a battle between KG and Shaq. I think I came to my answer, but I want to hear yours first.
Brother, it pains me to say this, honestly. But I think I got to go Shaq.
Mm.
And it hurt me a little bit because I wanted to say KG so bad. Promise you I wanted to say KG. But man, Shaq, three-peat dominance, best center in the league, all that good stuff. Who won't guard Shaq, man? The whole aura around Shaq. Then to get another championship in Miami in 06 behind Wade, obviously, but you know what I mean. I just think you got to throw Shaq in there, bro. Nobody had the peak that Shaq had in the 2000s. And that's nobody. Not Tim Duncan, not Kobe, not Bron, not KG. Nobody had the peak that he had in the 2000s. Lakers Shaq was peak for the 2000s.
Mm.
That version of Shaq is the best player of the decade. I can't lie. Cole right there next to him. But that version of Shaq is the best player of the whole 2000s. So I feel like I would be remiss if I left him off.
Mm.
So I got to go Shaq, Kobe, Tim Duncan. Now, like I said, Kobe and Tim was the only two solidified. Shaq was on the edge because, like you said, he had the front half, then had the back half. But that front half was so dominant. It make up for it. I can't lie. So I got to throw him in there. So Shaq would be my third honorable mention. Go to my boy KG and Bron, but gotta go with Shaq, man.
You convinced me. I'm gonna go with Shaq because I was gonna say KG.
I'm glad, brother. I'm glad I was the only one. But man, Shaq was too dominant. Like there was nothing nobody could do. There's nothing nobody could do with anybody on this list, obviously. But Lord, bro, like nobody had that peak of unstoppableness, dominance, like fear in the league. Nobody had the peak that Shaq had. And that peak was the 2000s, the beginning of the 2000s. So I'm not letting that one slide. Like I gotta put them in there. But it hurt me though. KG, you ever see this? You probably won't. Know you my favorite player, dog. I love you, dog. I hate that I couldn't slide you in there, but I have to be honest. I gotta be honest. Shaq just was too much. And I'm sure you would agree to an extent.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Dang, boy.
So, I before you said what you said, I had KG over Shaq, and the reason why this is the case that you made a case for Shaq, I'll make a case for KG. So KG, he didn't have a lows. His lows was his team.
Facts.
He did out of everybody on this list, he did the most with the least. So if you gave KG a Kobe talent player or give him a Greg Popovich type of coach, you gave him any level of stability besides him playing on the Timberwolves, you see better from him. But he had the most instability of everybody on this list. Like, name his number twos: Stephon Marbury, Wally Zerbiak.
Wally Zerbiak. Was Sprewell there?
Sprewell had a couple years. Like, Sam Cassell. These are number twos, man. No knock to any of these guys.
Still
but
great
we talking
players.
about Kobe and Shaq. We talking about Kobe and Shaq, and then we had David Robinson, Tim Duncan. Then we had TP and Manu. You can co-sign them as a number two options in San Antonio. But ranking these guys, KG is coming up last on this list as far as talent they had and help they had.
For sure.
So that's why I was like, his consistency throughout the whole decade with the lack of talent he had around him, still producing, he still finds his way to winning MVP, giving it to you on both ends of the floor. Like, he could arguably be the best two-way player on this list that we have. That's a good conversation to be had, but he's the best two-way player on here.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm just like, bruh, gotta get some respect to KG, but it's really right there from between KG and Shaq. It's right there. It's not like an easy pick because Shaq had the highest high, everybody like you said, but KG, I could arguably say he had a more consistent output than Tim because Tim had more consistency and stability around him. So KG did the most with the least, and he gave you Tim Duncan level numbers without Tim Duncan level talent around him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I'm like, KG was my third. But you think about who dominated the best of that decade, I can't leave Shaq off that list now. Like I'm like, you think about that time frame and era, Shaq comes to mind. So I'm like, I got those Shaq on there. So
For sure.
Kobe, Shaq, Tim Duncan, man. That's the big three from the 2000s. So, whew, that was a tough one. That was the
Probably
toughest
as
one.
tough as it's gonna get, honestly.
Yeah.
So, tough.
All right, 2010s, man. Let's get this over with. Progress is not about perfection and being perfect. It's about making growth no matter what. It's about pushing yourself to the limit and beyond those limits. Every challenge that comes your way, you're overcoming them. And it's about striving to become more and doing more. Every single step, every single day, every single dribble is a victory. You've won as long as you're making progress. Because progress is the only goal. So invest into that progress, invest into that dream. Get yourself a reminder that progress is the only goal. So you got 2010s.
Well, we know the guy that's gonna be solidified in this one is obviously LeBron James. Like we gave him honorable mention last time. He kicked the door down in 2010, so you gotta pop it out with him. He for sure solidified. Now the 2 and 3 get kind of tough, but I think your best options out of that, kind of similar situation. Kobe had the front end of the 2010s. He won the championship in 2010, went to the finals. No, he went to the finals 09 and then 2010. So 09 don't really count in this one. But he got him his last ring in 2010. He still was dominant for about 3 more years, but retired in 2016. The Lakers was pretty irrelevant. So I don't like to throw him in this one. I can't lie. Then you got your Steph Curry. Obviously, Steph is Steph, but didn't really hit the scene till 2015 when he won his first MVP, I want to say. Excuse me.
Listen.
I'm going to be dusty. I got to clean up a little bit. But like you said, so Kobe had a little bit of the front end. Steph was running in the back end. So he's in the running a little bit. Dwayne Wade playing with Bron had the front end of it. And then going towards the back end, he didn't have it no more. So that's tough. Then you got KD. KD kind of took a while to get it going. He won an MVP in 2014.
Yeah.
2014?
That sound right.
Yeah. So it get kind of tough. You got my boy James Harden, one of the best scorers. You got Chris Paul. But for me, I think I got a lot down on our big 3 generation. Almost all vibes. I got to lock in Bron, Steph, KD. Because I think for a while, those guys were the most unstoppable things walking. You know what I mean? Bron was Bron. We all know. Steph changed the whole game of basketball in around 2015, 2016. The whole game of basketball started to change. So that impact, kind of similar to Shaq, that impact was enough to get me to give him the nod. And then KD, man, the first 7-foot guard we ever seen, man, changed the game in that respect. There was the most unstoppable things walking. And then I hate Steph and KD end up playing together, but shoot, we threw Kobe and Shaq in the big 3 of the 2000. They was on the same team, so I can't say too much. But them 3, man, they got it. And then honorable mention to I would say honorable mention to Dwayne Wade, to Chris Paul. And I throw Kobe in there. Shout out to Bean. Respect the Bean.
I think I would throw Kawhi in that honorable mention as well, just because of he has the oddest career in NBA history, man. Like
that's why I ain't doing it.
It's so odd, man. That's all I'm saying. It's odd. So I would throw him in honorable mention, but yeah, it's Bron, 10 Finals MVP. I mean, 10 Finals appearances. He's LeBron, like you said. We mentioned him. He had whispers in the 2000s, but he's yet we yelling him for the tens. And then Curry, like the reason why it's easily these three. If you think about this decade, you have to mention these three names first.
Yeah,
like you have to. Like that's why it's so easy for me to say these three because you once you get done with these three, then you can mention James Harden, you can mention Chris Paul, you can mention Cole, D Wade, and everything. But if you start talking about this decade and it's like, okay, LeBron, obviously, you waiting to hit Steph Curry, you waiting to hit KD, and you get too long. Man, shut up, bro. What KD at? Like, oh my bad, bro. KD, like,
all right, bro, throw
you even
KD
talk
in
to White.
this.
You went to White Howard, Boogie. I'm like, hold on, time out, bro. Run that list back. You done went through how many plays you ain't mentioned KD? You went through how many plays and you ain't mentioned Steph? Like, that's the conversation they're in. So it gets to a point you don't name 5 names, but you ain't mentioned Steph and KD and LeBron, you're looking goofy. And so those three are hands down 1, 2, and 3 of this decade, like the big three of this era, this time frame, because the dominance LeBron has had. Like LeBron took over Tim Duncan's role from the last time of like the dominance he had throughout.
Mm-hmm.
Curry took over Shaq's role of having the peak of what he had, the most highest peak that you can possibly have. Of yeah, he might have had a higher peak than LeBron. That's another conversation we could have. Like whose peak was higher, you know? But that's a good episode somebody can have. But then KD kind of took more of that KG role almost, or maybe more of the Kobe role of being that third player that kind of you can't talk about this time frame without mentioning me because there's so 3 different pieces and how they impacted this era and impacted the game totally different, but they're all equal level. Like we have to mention them as the big 3. So this was the easiest one for me, man. Like it's cool what D Wade did, and that's my dog. It's cool with Kobe, that's my ultimate dog. Harden did, that's cute. CP, cool, but that's the big 3. Bron, Steph, KD.
It don't get much better than that, dog. I can't lie. That's our generation.
Yeah,
Still
man.
KD, man. Most unstoppable things walking. Like I said, nothing you can do with none of them. And it's a reason why in the 2010s, Bron got 4 of them things and Steph got 3 of them things in the 2010s. So you talking about then KD and Steph. So you talking about two players got 7 of the 10 rings in that decade. And then the other 3 was when Ron went to went to the Lakers, and they ain't have nobody for real. Steph, Clay, and KD all fell apart in the finals, and Kawhi got one in Toronto. And then when Bron lost to
The Mavs.
the Mavs in 2011, Bron lost to the Mavs in 2011, and the Spurs in 14, and the Warriors every other time. And then that's when. And then Toronto won in 2019. So Mavs, Spurs, Toronto all got a ring in that decade, and the other 7 was them guys. So
Yep.
don't get more dominant than that. Just saying. So, that's the big 3.
Yeah. So now let's push towards the future a little bit, man. Let's do 2020s, and we're halfway through this decade now, so it's kind of. I
You
think
seeing it?
honestly, you see. I think we have certain people, 1 or 2 that solidified, and then that last piece is kind of like we're in the works of who can it be. Like we know this player's the dominant one. Like you can't mention the 20s of basketball of NBA and not have this name in there. I think we have one player that's hand down solidified. I think we have another player that's potentially creeping his way on that list, depending on how they team can work and move forward. I think we have a group of guys, maybe 4, that is like you should be in this conversation. We're projecting forward and saying you should be in this conversation. So let's talk about the 20s, man. Who do you see on this list about the big 3 coming out when we skip forward, in 10 years, we look back at the 20s and say these guys dominated and ran the 20s?
You might be a little surprised, but it's actually very easy for me. Right now, today, as I stand and thinking about the future, the big three of this decade is Jokic, Luka, Giannis. That's the big three. And it's crazy that they all foreigners. But that's the big three of this decade right now. You talking about all three of them guys, first team All NBA every year. Jokic got 2 of the MVPs this decade. And Giannis got 1, if I ain't mistaken. And then Luka, because Giannis won MVP in 2019. But I think, who won in 2020? I'm trying to think in the bubble year. Did Giannis win in 2020? Am I mistaken? Either way, them the big three of this decade, and then I would say my dark horses to take over, to take one of their spots, would be between Victor Wembanyama, because he got 7 years in this decade. Just got drafted last year. He gonna have 7 years in this decade. Victor Wembanyama, I would say SGA and Ant-Man. They got the best chance to take somebody's spot. I don't think nobody else could do it. Joel Embiid up there, but I just don't see Joel Embiid maintaining for too long with his health and stuff like that. I don't see him maintaining his best peak years for that much longer, honestly. He's hurt all the time, and the injuries he has seen, like longevity issues, knees, back, feet. It's got a lot to do with his weight, his size. I don't see him lasting long enough at a high level to really take somebody's spot. So, especially now where you got to play a certain amount of games to even qualify for an award. So now you're talking about he might not even be MVP, All NBA for some years if he misses too many games. Because that's exactly what just happened this past season. So there might be 3. I think it's kind of easy right now. I mean, it's easy to say that right now with only 4 years of a serving size, but they solidify right now. So who you say?
That's very interesting because I disagree with that. I think Joker is the only hands down easy pick because he has the championship, he has the MVPs, he has the dominance, and it's like he's the only solidified one that's guaranteed in my mind. Just to clarify, Giannis won 18-19 MVP, he won 19-20 MVP, Joker won 2020, 21, 22, 20 to 21, 21, 22, and Embiid won 22, 23, and Joker won again 23, 24.
Okay. So Giannis got 1 in this decade, and Jokic got 2 in this decade, and then Embiid got the other one.
Yeah. So he's won 3 MVPs in this decade. Like, he already has the ring, and he can argue get another one in there. And that's where he's the only one solidified. And honestly, I think Giannis is the one I feel comfortable putting in there because he has the MVPs and he has the ring. Luka player-wise, yes. But we're also talking about dominance. It's tough to split these two apart because I don't know who's the guy yet. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say I'm cheating when I'm doing this. It's really just because I don't know who to pick between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. All right. You recording? I'm recording. All right. Yeah, so if we're looking at the big 3 from this time frame, Jokic is easily number 1. Giannis is definitely in the conversation, but the reason he's iffy because I don't know how his team does moving forward. It's just really tricky to do. And so the conversation for me kind of bounces around between Tatum and Brown because they're going to be championship caliber players. Luka's going to be talked about because player for player, he's going to be up there in the conversation. Like you said, SGA, Ant-Man, Wemby, all the guys like honorable mention for right now. But it's hard for me to pick Luka comfortably over Tatum and Brown. I can't just be like, oh, it's easily Luka. Like, if we're going off of dominance, then yes. But we also got to throw in the potential of winning rings. That's only like a ring-winning team right now. So that's why I'm like, it's hard for me to easily put Luka over those two, and they just won a ring with the same team coming back this year. So I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it's honestly, it's really Jokic number one, easily and comfortably. Giannis based off team and individual success. It's my number two, and I'm jockeying between the Tatum Brown combo and Luka. That's my fight for third, just because these two have the team success that Luka needs, but Luka's having the dominance that the other two need. So really weighing out which one weighs more. I ain't gonna be no punk. I'm actually put my name on this and stand behind something. So I'm gonna say Tatum and Brown just because I think they have a better chance of winning more rings than Luka does right now. So if we're going off of dominance, I would pick Luka, but because I think right now the Celtics have a better chance of having more long-term team success the rest of this decade, I'm leaning towards Tatum and Brown. Now, who would I pick between those two? I honestly don't know. I used to say Tatum easily, but the last 2 years, I'm like, Brown has said, put some respect on my name. So right now, it's kind of cheating by putting both of those two together. But Jokic, Giannis, and then the Celtics, two Jays. That's my third pick.
I feel like that's my mistake. I should have put Jason Tatum in my honorable mention. That was kind of disrespectful to Jason Tatum. He should be honorable mention. But as an individual, Luka Doncic, I feel like is not head and shoulders above Jason Tatum, but he definitely like not shoulders, but neck and up above Jason Tatum.
Yeah. I'll give you that. Like I say, in the individual dominance, Luka's he might be over Giannis in my opinion. I would probably take him as far as who's more dominant in the league right now over Giannis. I would not be mad if I saw that list and said that, and I'll probably take that.
Mm-hmm.
But we also have to consider team success in that too, and team dominance. Like everybody, think about all the other big threes we had. They've also had team dominance.
Right.
The Mavs don't have that right now. So that's where
But they just
I'm
went to
leaning
the
towards
finals.
that.
Why you say they don't got dominant? And they just got Klay Thompson.
Who just won the finals?
You're right. But I'm saying they don't have dominance, but they just left the finals, and you could say they got better. I would say they got better. And the Celtics obviously did win the finals, and I'll bring it back the same team. But you saying they don't have dominance when this could be the start of them dominating. You feel me? Like they could get right back to the finals just like the Celtics. And I think they got a pretty good chance because I don't see nobody in the West that's just like, dang, they just stacked up. Like, okay, we just seen Minnesota trade and get Julius Randle, and I think that could be a solid trade for them. That could be a solid team. But the Mavericks, like, gentlemen swept them boys. And they barely got one because they was down 3-0. And then OKC is right there. I feel like is really good. They just picked up Caruso, who I feel like is a good pick. So I feel like they solid. Right? They pretty good. And they all young, so they ain't doing nothing but getting better, hopefully. But as far as who the best team in the West is right now, and then the Nuggets are decent, but they keep losing pieces year by year. KCP just left. And the year before that, Jeff Green left, and what's my boy name? That was the 4-man, Bruce Brown. He just left. You know what I mean? So they slowly but surely losing pieces. They picked up Russ. I don't think Russ moved the needle that much though. And we ain't got to get into no discussion about teams, obviously, but I think Luka's literally been first team All NBA every year in this decade already. Every year. And if we was gonna name the top 5 players in the league, he's in there solidified, and Jason Tatum is teetering on being out for a lot of people. Maybe not you, but for a lot of people, because everybody gonna say Jokic, everybody gonna say Luka, everybody gonna say Giannis. That 4-5, a lot of people throw SGA in there now because he would just run up for MVP or whatever, a third in the running for MVP. A lot of people would say SGA might be 4th, and then 5th might be Jason Tatum, and then some people might put Ant-Man over Jason Tatum. And then you still got the LeBron, KD, Steph Curry. I think obviously a lot of people put Jason Tatum over them. But for if I had one game to save the earth, I'm probably taking one of them three over him. So it's just one of them things, man. I love Tatum. I think he's a great player. Obviously, I don't want to take nothing away from him or what he's accomplished, but I just think if we talking about an individual who running the decade, the foreigners got it right now. The foreigners
Yeah.
running the decade. Giannis, Luka, Jokic, ain't too much can be done about them guys. So, like I said before, the most unstoppable people walking is them three right now. So, and Tatum was looking very stoppable in that finals. So,
Yeah. But I think just because I feel more comfortable, like let's say you removed last year. Like let's say you go back 2 years ago. So before the Celtics won the finals last year and before the Mavs got the finals run. Was Kyrie on the team 2 years ago?
2 years ago? No, yes. Yes. He got traded middle of the
All
year
right.
2 years ago.
All right, cool. So let's take the rosters right there. All right. So remove last season from this conversation. Still at this point, I'm looking at the Celtics being more of a prominent team than the Mavs. So I'm thinking long-term success as a team and a player. So like player for player, AI was the guy. Like you ain't name a point guard you taking over him. J Kidd, Nash, player for player, AI's taking that. So right now, Luka's kind of in that AI role of, yeah, you killing these dudes, but right now, team wise, Tim Duncan got you. Like that's where I'm at right now with JT and JB, to where they're the. Let me not say that because that's
Please don't call him
I ain't
Tim
finna
Duncan
do
of
that.
the league.
No. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm gonna say some more blasphemous that will not be recorded. But nah, they're just like that. I'll say this: they're similar to like the conversation we had about Mike and Pip, of where how much of their individual success can be pulled away from the other when both of them are just so close to each other and rely on each other so much. So it's not that they're as good as those two, but the conversation is like, well, how much is JT benefiting from JB and vice versa? But team wise, I see them like, okay, like you said, the Mavs have a good chance coming out the East. I mean, coming out the West. The Celtics have just as good a chance, probably even better chance coming out the East. So if we're being real about this, like at least finals runs, it's a better chance that the Celtics have in the next 5 years. I see the Celtics getting to at least 2 or 3 of them. Because the Knicks ain't finna do nothing right now, at least, because we don't know what they looking like with Cat. So let's keep them on a no. The Bucks, they need to figure out their Dame situation, figure out their
But I
defense.
think
So
they
we're looking
gonna
at
be
Giannis coming.
better this year with it. Just like Luka and Kyrie from last year. Like Kyrie came to the Mavericks last year. They had to figure it out. And then this year they had a full season. They had a full training camp together, everything. Plus, Giannis was hurt in the playoffs. Giannis didn't play a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
This year they could be way better with their chemistry and everything because they still got all the core pieces. Still got Giannis, Chris, Dame, Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez. They got all the core pieces. Like I said, I don't want to turn this
Mm-hmm.
into a discussion about teams and who team is better, even though team success does play a role. But I don't think we looking at Jason Tatum as better than Luka right now. Because unless the Celtics win three or four championships or something, maybe in this decade, because they got one, it's 6 more to be had.
Mm-hmm.
If they was to get 2 or 3 more, then yeah, for sure he's in there. Because now you talking about they ran the decade, but it would still hurt him if he never won Finals MVP. And if the whole decade we never said, yeah, Jason Tatum, if he never won an MVP or anything like that, it would hurt him still because he still ain't been an MVP. He didn't win Finals MVP. He didn't even win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. You know what I mean? Like you said, Brown been in the running for that stuff. And I don't think Brown gonna be in the running for MVP because he played with Jason Tatum. So you could say that kind of is a hurt me, help me type situation. But right now, we don't look at him as better than any of the guys I named, and I don't see him surpassing them anytime soon. So, unless, like you said, they just rattle off a couple championships, it's a no for me. I like the 3 I got over him.
So if, like you said, I agree with you when it comes player to player. Like Luka, like it's like you said, it's not head and shoulders above them two, but it's a comfortable gap between those two. It's like it's Luka, no, Tatum and Brown. Like that's where it is. So player for player, yes, but we also have to talk about the team dominance too. So that's why I think the Celtics have a slight edge over them because they've already won one, and moving forward, who has a better chance of getting back to the finals? Right now, it's the Celtics. We haven't seen what the new Mavs look like at the time we're recording this, so we don't know what to say exactly. But who to say that Luka don't move, or they get a big move to come in and they end up playing is Luka and Joker team. That changes the conversation completely, you know. But who's to say Tatum or Brown will step up and we're just like, oh, they finally figuring out this Mike and Scotty thing or their Kobe and Shaq thing to where they're the dominant 1-2 punch the league. Do I see that happening? No. I think they end up being more of a Spurs type of team or like the Warriors without the firepower, where they're a really great team, well-oiled machine that just flows together, and they have pieces that you can drive the car better than other cars have. So I don't think that they're not going to be as dominant individually because they're so team incorporated and they're not just like, give me the ball, get out my way. But you have to blend. It's a good conversation, man. But I think you have to blend of like the team success will overshadow Luka's individual success.
That's the
So
only.
since the conversation we're having,
I'm sorry to cut you off. That's the only like chance he got, in my opinion. Because, like I said, I don't see him winning no individual awards other than all NBA teams. I don't see him winning no MVPs over Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Luka Doncic, and SGA no time soon. And I mean, and I say all this, when this upcoming season, he could have a really big breakout season. He could be pissed about the Olympics and all the disrespect he'd have been getting, all that good stuff. I can see that happening, honestly. I can see that happening. But I'm not willing to bet on that happening over Luka being a better player than him next season. That's just me, though. So I just feel like I'll be willing to bet Luka gonna get an MVP before Jason Tatum. I'll be willing to bet Luka gonna get a championship in this decade. I'd be willing to bet Nikola Jokic gonna get another MVP before Jason Tatum. I'd be willing to bet that Joel Embiid might. Well, I'll take Embiid back because they just got Paul George. I'd be willing to bet that Giannis get another MVP before him. Them guys are just better, in my opinion. So I just don't see him overshadowing them. But the team success is the only thing he got to hang his hat on right now. Because even with Tim Duncan and KG, of course we talk about Tim Duncan and KG, like one could be KG could be better than Tim for real. But at the end of the day, Tim had more team success. But at the same time, for them 5 rings Tim got, he was Finals MVP for 4 of the 5, I want to say, and he got an MVP and he got Defensive Player of the Year. So if Tatum had that going and he didn't win MVP, that would be something different. Like Steph, first unanimous MVP, changed the game. When they won the championship, he ain't Finals MVP. Then they get KD, he's still Steph, and they win the championships. KD winning Finals MVP. So we still was looking at Steph like he need that Finals MVP, but he had everything else. Tatum ain't got nothing but the championship. So Luka could if I had to bet on one of them getting an MVP first, I would definitely bet on Luka. And I would definitely bet Luka going to eventually get a championship in this decade. So he not passing them guys. Like you said, Giannis already got all of them. He already got an MVP, a DPOY, and a championship. Jokic already got 2 MVPs and a championship. Luka and Tatum, my fault, yeah. Luka and Tatum, the only ones who got it, like who don't got one over those things that they need. And with that being said, Luka, as we stand today, is better. And I'm willing to bet he'll be better the rest of the decade because he's younger at that point. And he's also younger than Jason Tatum. So I didn't think this was going to turn into a Luka versus Jason Tatum debate, but some big respect to both of them.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a curveball at you. You might get annoyed with this, but be completely real with you. I think moving forward, I'm my for real big 3 of the 20s moving forward. This like my actual list, like when we get done, all said and done. Joker, Giannis, and Ant-Man. Like I love Luka and I love Tatum, but I honestly think Ant-Man's gonna figure out a way to become that guy. Like I honestly think he has an opportunity to be the face of the league type of stuff. Now, if he's doing in Minnesota, it's the only conversation I'm willing to have around Ant. Like I think he's gonna end up being in the conversation for the face and being in the conversation like the third guy in it. but because he's the youngest one out of this group we're talking about with Tatum and Luka, Giannis and Joker, he's had the most to overcome. But I think moving forward, between the Olympic run he just had of being like arguably the fourth best player, you can debate that between him and Booker. You can have a conversation, but for him to show in that spotlight the way he did says a lot. So I got to put more respect on Ant. And I think for me, like you said, we only got 6 more years, and I think Ant-Man could squeeze out an MVP, could squeeze out a lot more postseason success to overcome and become that third piece. So I think moving forward, this is a real gambler's shot right here. Because I think Luka is the safest bet and the smartest bet right now. But I'm looking future moving forward of me saying Ant-Man will figure out a way to overcome all that. And I could be biased in saying it because I'm a huge Ant-Man fan. Like, that's my dog. SJ, that's my other guy, and Ja, my other guy. Shout out Ja. You know, I think he deserves to be mentioned. Throw his name out there, but I think Ant-Man has a possibility of being that third guy. So for my list right now, I'll put him on as being my third piece.
So you willing to bet Ant-Man gonna figure it out over Luka Doncic being better than Jason Tatum?
Oh, listen, if we had to rank it, I would say those two obviously. I'm putting Ant-Man over Luka, Luka over Tatum Brown.
Ant-Man over Luka, Luka over Tatum. Okay. I mean, I ain't mad at that. I would never do that, but I ain't mad at you saying that because I feel I got a lot of love and respect for Ant-Man also. Real Georgia boy, Southern boy. I love everything about his game and everything. But as I stand right now today in 2024, Luka is the best out of them guys. And I'm willing to bet he
For
continues
sure.
to be the best. It's easier for me to believe Luka will get better over them guys will surpass Luka. You know what I mean? Because if Luka is here and Ant-Man and Tatum are somewhere in here, and I'm willing to bet they both just continue to do this, as opposed to Luka being here and Tatum and Ant-Man being here and they doing this. You know what I mean? That just don't seem
But
feasible
that's
in
what
my
I'm
mind.
saying. That's what I'm willing to bet that Ant-Man can make that leap. That's what I'm gambling on. So right now, Luka is like today as we record this, I'm taking Luka player for player. Luka's better. But what I'm gambling on is the future moving forward. Like we're only 4 years into this thing, so I'm gambling on the next 6 years. Ant-Man can take that leap. That's what I'm gambling on right now. So as it stands, it might be a big thing like where Joker ends up being like Shaq. And he dominates the first half of this thing, and Luka probably is
Let me
the
see.
consistent one throughout the whole piece. And then I'm taking Ant-Man to pick up the back half. So that's what I'm kind of looking at here. So it's
All right.
I'm gambling on Ant-Man taking that leap and saying he can take that jump to honestly, you could take him over Tatum and Brown. I won't be mad at that. And I'm like, cool. But
Luka
I'm
Doncic
saying
is only
Ant-Man, Luka.
25. I just looked that up. He's only 25.
Listen,
I'm taking him.
I'm gambling on the future, bro. Listen, I'm not mad at that. I'm not gonna sit here and fight you on it. All I'm saying is I'm gambling on the future. I listen, if we spin the block back and look at who's right and who's wrong, I will double back and say, I don't double. I'll come back and say I was 100% wrong. Luca was the big three of the 20s. I'm not gonna sit here and say like I'm too big to come back and say I was wrong. But I'm willing to be the one to shoot here and take the long shot and say Ant-Man. That's what I'm willing to do here.
Okay. Nikola Jokic is 29. So you could consider him in his prime right now today.
Yep.
Jason Tatum's 26. So I feel like he's going to continue to get better. Luka 25,
Yep.
he'll continue to get better. And Ant-Man's 23.
Mm-hmm.
So in that respect, I can kind of give you Ant-Man because he's the youngest. So he got the most room to grow, all that good stuff. But we do have to agree to disagree, dog. Mostly because I got to use the bathroom. That's why you see me rocking. But yeah, man, I just like Luka right now. If I had to put my money on somebody, if somebody was like, "Hey, bro, you got to bet everything you own on one of these guys being the best player of the decade," and we gonna come back in 2030 and we gonna collect. I was saying, shoot, put it on Luka Doncic. Like, yeah, I gotta put it on Luka. Now, I mean, it could be now as far as the best of the decade, it could be between one of the three guys I named. But if I had to bet on one of them out of the three guys we talking about between Luka, Ant-Man, and Tatum, I'm all in on Luka. I'm putting all my chips on the table for that guy from doggone Lithuania. No, not Lithuania, Slovenia. That's Slovenia?
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
putting all my
yeah.
chips on the table for him.
Well, I'm taking a long shot. I'm going to take that gambler shot and say Ant-Man can take that leap to overcome the odds. But the reason I did mention Tatum and Brown first because they had the team success. So, like I said, we're going to have to agree to disagree, man. I thought this one going to be interesting, and it was. So, I don't probably get hate for this, and people be like, yes, Luka. Well, listen, I'm fine. Right now, Luka is, like, listen, I'll say this. Luka is the better guy right now. No question about that. But we're also gambling on the future. And that's the fun part. So, I'm gambling on Ant-Man. So, I'm gonna have to take my L if I take it, but I'm gambling on the win, bro. You don't play to lose, bro. You play to win. So I think I'm going with Ant-Man, Southern boy, rocking with him all the way. But it's a good conversation, man. But of course, y'all know it don't end here. Comments is where we engage with you guys. Let us know, man. Let me know, am I tripping? Should I gone with the smarter bet and safer bet being Luka? Or should I just, take my boy Tatum in the Celtics, or just stick with Ant-Man like I said? Is AI really better than we give him credit for? Should KG be over Tim Duncan? Like we open all this. Is anybody in the 2010s actually in the conversation to enter that big three? That's what we want to know, man. But appreciate y'all for tuning in. Appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure you subscribe, like, and share. See y'all next video.